Hello Dragon Wisps, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be continuing our Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 tutorials. We're doing part 3 of the skills area, which is going to be E through J. I do apologize for this video being uploaded late. I had to re-record it 4 times now due to technical issues, primarily involving sound. So I'm hoping this one works out. I'm trying a different microphone, one on my earbuds, because the one in my camera for some reason has this weird static, and I need a new cord for my blue mic. So anyway, before I begin, I'd like to remind you to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet to become a Dragon Wisp. And if you would like to support the channel more directly, you can do so at the Patreon or shop link in the description below. Now, without any further ado, sit back, relax, and let's learn about skills E through J. Alright, so the first skill we're going to be covering is Escape Artist. Escape Artist is your ability to escape ropes, manacles, nets, spells, spells that bind, squeeze through tight spaces, a grapple. And the way that the check works is that there are various DCs based on what you're trying to do. Obviously, trying to escape a rope would be a bit easier than trying to escape masterwork manacles, for example. So a rope for your escape artist check is going to be against the binder's use rope check plus 10. So it's already going to be harder for you because of the rope, but it's not impossible. Net or animate rope spell, command plant spell, control plant spell, or entangle spell has a DC of 20 to escape. A snare spell has 23. Manacles, so like handcuffs, is a 30. Tight spaces, if you're trying to John McClane through the vents of Nagatomi Plaza, is also a 30. Masterwork Manacles is a 35, and grapple, if you're trying to escape a grappler, is the grappler's grapple check result against you. Now that being said, in some situations you'll make an opposed grappling check against them, but that's a different thing entirely. We're not gonna worry about that right now. Making an escape artist check to escape from rope bindings, manacles, or other restraints requires 1 minute of work. Escaping from a net or animate rope, command plants, control plants, or entangle spell is a full round action. Escaping from a grapple or pin is a standard action, and squeezing through a tight space takes at least 1 minute, maybe longer, depending on how long the space is. Generally, you wouldn't get too many chances to try again, but let's say you're trying to squeeze through a tight space. Yep, you can re-roll the failed check there. If situation permits, you can make additional checks, or even take 20, as long as you're not being actively opposed. If you have the Agile feat, you get a +2 bonus on Escape Artist checks. And if you have 5 or more ranks in Escape Artist, you get a +2 bonus on use rope checks to bind someone. And conversely, if you have 5 or more ranks and use rope, you get a +2 bonus on Escape Artist checks from escaping from rope binds. Next, we're going to cover Forgery. Obviously, Forgery is your ability to forge documents, create an authentic looking treasure map, or detect forgeries that others try to pass off. This is because your forgery check is opposed by an opposing forgery check. Forgery requires writing materials appropriate to the document being forged, enough light or sufficient visual acuity to see the details of what you're writing, wax for seals, and some time. You also need to be able to understand, read, and write the language that you're trying to forge a document in, but that's realistically should go without saying. Honestly, I haven't had too much experience with the forgery skill. I've had a couple nice ones, but I don't use it too often. Um, your DM makes your forgery check secretly, so you would let them know what your modifiers are, because you don't know if your forgery has succeeded or even how good it is until the time comes for it to be opposed. It's same, just like with a disguise check. The person examining your forgery gains modifiers on his or her check if any of these conditions are met. So, depending on whether or not the type of document is known to the reader, if it's unknown, it's a -2 on their check. If it's well known, it's a +2 on their check. And if it's somewhat known, it's a 0. If they know the handwriting, it's a +2. If they don't know the handwriting, it's a -2. If they kind of know the handwriting, it's a 0. And if the reader only casually reviews the document, let's say um, a writ of passage into a town, generally they're not going to spend too much time looking at that if there's a ton of people coming through. So that's a -2 for them. Forging a very short and simple document takes about 1 minute. Longer or more complex documents take 1d4 minutes per page. Usually you won't get the ability to try again on a forgery check, just because realistically, once somebody's caught you using a forgery, they're not going to be too ready, willing, and able to accept the next attempt you give. If you have the deceitful feat, you get a +2 bonus on forgery checks. And as I mentioned before, forgery is language dependent, so in order to forge documents, you need to be able to read, write, understand the language in question, which unfortunately for those of you who are barbarians out there, unless you take use a skill point to take the ability to read, become literate, forgery is way out of the question for you. The next skill we're going to cover is gather information. Obviously, this is your ability to gather information. Asking around town, greasing a few palms, buying some drinks at the tavern, trying to get people to talk and give you information. The DC for gather information is kind of special. It depends on what level of information you're trying to get. Like if you're trying to find out about a local street performer, usually that'll be around 10. But if you're asking around about the vampire who's currently running the town because he's the Baron, and obviously the people there are going to be afraid to say anything because they don't want the repercussions from it, that's going to be a lot higher of a DC. It could be 20, even higher. Plus, if you get caught, you're in trouble. Typical gather information check takes 1d4 plus 1 hours, because again, you are looking for information, greasing palms, buying drinks in the tavern. You can try again. Each check does take time. Plus, you may draw attention to yourself the more you ask, for obvious reasons. A half-elf has a +2 racial bonus on gather information checks because of their ability to relate well to others. And if you have the investigator feat, you can take a +2 bonus on gather information checks. And if you have 5 or more ranks in knowledge local, you get a +2 bonus on gather information checks. Next, we're going to cover handle animal. This is your ability to handle an animal, teach it tricks, rear it, push it to do something it normally wouldn't, sort of thing. The DCs are 10 for just handle an animal. If you're trying to push it to do something it normally wouldn't, it's 25. So trying to tell a T-Rex to put down that goat. Teaching an animal a trick or training an animal for a general purpose is a 15 or a 20, depending on what you're trying to do. Rearing an animal, like a wild animal, is 15 plus the hit dice of the animal. So let's say you're trying to break a horse. It's got 4 hit dice. You need 19 or better. Now, the general purposes that you can train an animal for are combat riding, fighting, and guarding for 20, heavy labor for performance and riding for 15, and hunting for 20. Now, these are the DCs you have to hit. Training an animal, or teaching an animal tricks, is different. So, attack is a DC 20, come is a DC 15, defend is a DC 20, down, fetch is a DC 15, are a DC 15, guard is a DC 20, heal, perform, seek, and stay are all 15s, track is a 20, and work is a 15. Now, the amount of tricks that an animal can know is 3 per intelligence score. So, intelligence score of 1 or 2. So you could potentially know a maximum of 6 tricks. The action time varies. Handling an animal is a move action, while pushing an animal is a full round action. Tasks with specific time frames, so like training, you have to complete half of it. So let's say it takes 6 hours, just throwing it out there, to train a dog to fetch. You would need to spend 3 hours doing this before making your handle animal check. If it fails, the training attempt fails, there's no point in continuing at that point. You can try again, except when it comes to rearing an animal. And you can also use this skill on a creature with an intelligence score of 1 or 2 that's not an animal, but the DC of any check increases by 5. These creatures also have the same limit of tricks as an animal does. Druids and rangers gain a +4 circumstance bonus on handle animal checks involving their animal companion, because obviously they have a bond. They also, the animal companion also knows 1 or more bonus tricks, which don't count against the maximum number of tricks that the animal can know. If you have the animal affinity feat, you gain a +2 bonus on handle animal checks. If you have 5 or more ranks in handle animal, you get a +2 bonus on ride checks and wild empathy checks. You can use this skill untrained. However, you would roll a charisma check to handle and push domestic animals, but you can't teach, rear, or train animals. Same thing goes for a druid or ranger with no ranks in handle animal. They can use charisma to handle and push their animal companion, but can't teach, rear, or train other non-domestic animals. Alright, next we have the heal skill. Heal is your ability to help keep badly wounded friend from dying, help people recover faster from wounds, poisons, or treat diseases. Now your DC depends on your task, so trying to do first aid, long-term care, or treat wounds from a caltrip, spike growth, or spike stone spell are all 15. And treating poison and disease are the poison and diseases save DCs. Now, first aid is what you would use to save a dying character. So, if their hit points are in the negative and they're bleeding, you would do a heal check to administer first aid to stop them from bleeding more. Long-term care is essentially along the same lines, but for a much longer time, a day or more. If the heal is successful, the patient receives hit points or ability score points at twice the normal rate if you do full 8 hours of rest, or 4 hit points per level for each full day of complete rest. Same thing with ability score points, 2 for 8 hours of rest, 4 for a full day of rest. Giving long-term care counts as light activity for the healer, and you cannot give long-term care to yourself. Treating a wound from a caltrip, spike growth, or spike stones. Well, that one really goes without saying. However, a creature wounded by a Spike Growth or Spike Stone spell must still succeed on a reflex save or take injuries that reduce their speed by 1/2. Another character can remove this penalty by taking 10 minutes to dress the victim's injuries and succeed on a heal check. Treating poison and treating disease, like I said, that's pretty straightforward. One of your teammates or your party members has been poisoned or diseased, so you're trying to heal them. Providing first aid, treating a wound, or treating poison is a standard action. Treating a disease or tending a creature wounded by a Spike Growth or Spike Stone spell takes 10 minutes. Long-term care requires, at minimum, 8 hours of light activity. Now, you can try again. However, this requires you to have knowledge that your heal check has failed. A character with a self-sufficient feat gets a +2 bonus on heal checks, and a healer's kit gives you a +2 circumstance bonus on heal checks. The hide skill, this one goes without saying. This is one of the skills that has an armor check penalty. So if you have armor that is heavy enough that you receive an armor check penalty, which will be the stat block, which we will discuss once we do the equipment area, that armor check penalty applies to this. Your hide check is opposed by the spot check of anyone who might see you. You can move up to 1/2 your normal speed and hide with no penalty. If you move at a speed greater than 1/2 but not greater than your normal speed, you take a -5 penalty. And then if you're trying to hide while attacking, running, or charging, it's practically impossible. -20 penalty. For every size category, larger than medium, you take a -4, obviously doubling that, or adding 4 to that per size category. So large is -4, huge is -8, gargantuan is -12, colossal is -16, because I don't know how you're going to hide something like that unless it's a Tarrasque and the city you're in is on the back of the Tarrasque. And then subsequently, if you go smaller than medium, small gets a +4, tiny gets a +8, diminutive gets a +12, fine gets a +16, because let's face it, if you're Tom Thumb, you can hide anywhere. You do need cover or concealment in order to attempt a hide check. Total cover or total concealment usually obviates the need for a hide check, since nothing can see you anyway. If the people are observing you, even casually, you can't hide. However, you can run around a corner or behind cover so that you're out of sight, and then hide, but they at least know where you were beforehand. You can also distract them, and attempt to hide if you can get to a hiding spot, but generally needs to be within 1 foot per rank you have in hide. And it's also made at a -10 penalty because you have to move fast. You can do what's called sniping, where you successfully hide at least 10 feet from your target, make a ranged attack, and then immediately hide again, but you take a -20 on your hide check to conceal yourself after the shot. If you would like to create a diversion to hide, you can use bluff to help you hide. A successful bluff check can give you the momentary diversion you need to attempt a hide check while people are aware of you. Generally, the action required is none, because it's part of it would normally be part of a movement, unless you are sniping, in which case it is a separate move action. If you're invisible, you gain a +40 bonus on hide checks if you're immobile, and a +20 bonus on hide checks if you're moving. And if you have the stealthy feat, you gain a +2 bonus on hide checks. A 13th level ranger can attempt a hide check in any sort of natural terrain. So picture PETA from the Hunger Games when he's camouflaged. Even if the terrain doesn't grant you cover or concealment. And a 17th level ranger can do it even while being observed. Basically, take PETA, mix it with John Cena. You can't see me. Poof. Intimidate is the next skill we're going to cover. This is your ability to intimidate somebody into like backing down. A bully picking on your friend or a small child, a potential enemy that you don't feel like actually facing, you can try to intimidate. Now, what's important to know is that the intimidate skill is a charisma-based skill, so you don't actually have to have the power to, or the strength or anything to overpower your opponent. You just have to be able to make them believe you can. Of course, for every size category you are larger than your target, you gain a +4 because the bigger you are, the more intimidating you are. And for every size category smaller, you take a -4. So you're not going to very often see a halfling squaring off against an ogre and succeeding. The action time varies. It generally takes about 1 minute to change another person's behavior, but intimidating an opponent in combat is a standard action. And you can try again, like it is optional, but a lot of times if you haven't intimidated them the first time, puffing up a bit more isn't going to do too much. Characters immune to fear, such as a paladin of 3rd level or higher, are not affected by intimidate at all. If you have the persuasive feat, you gain a +2 on intimidate checks. If you have 5 or more ranks in bluff, you also gain a +2 bonus on intimidate checks. Because like I said, you are just trying to convince them that you can take them down. The last skill we're going to cover is jump. This is strength based, and it does have the applicable armor check penalties. The DC and the distance you're covering vary on according to the type of jump you're attempting. So if you're trying to attempt a long jump, it's going to be a different DC than a high jump. Generally, you need a 20-foot running start before you jump, either vertically or horizontally. But your DCs are doubled if you choose to forego that. You also gain bonuses for every 10 feet beyond 30 feet. No, you gain a bonus based on your maximum speed above 30 feet. Subsequently, you take a penalty if your maximum speed is below 30. Because a jump is part of a move skill, move check. Not move check, move action. So the jump DCs I'm going to give you are assuming you've got the 20-foot start. So for a long jump, for every 5 feet, it's another 5 onto the DC. And again, double that if you don't have that running start. So, 5 at 5 feet, 10 at 10 feet, 30 if you're trying to jump 30 feet. Good luck. And then high jump, not including your vertical reach, which we will discuss next. Every foot up you're trying to jump is a DC of 4. Or double that if you don't have the 20-foot running start. So if you're trying to jump up 8 feet without including your vertical reach, it's a 32 with a running start. Now, your vertical reach starts at 8 feet as a medium character, so obviously standing there, reaching up. And for every size category up, it doubles all the way to 128-foot vertical reach if you're colossal. And then every size category smaller than medium, it goes down 4 feet, or it divides by half. So if you're fine, you have a vertical reach of half of a foot. Now the action required is none because it's part of your movement. Effects that increase your movement Also increase your jumping distance, since your check is modified by your speed. If you have the run feat, you get a +4 bonus on jump checks for any jumps made after a running start. Halflings have a +2 racial bonus on jump checks because they're agile and athletic. And if you have the acrobatic feat, you get a +2 bonus on jump checks. If you have 5 or more ranks in tumble, you get a +2 bonus on jump checks. And if you have 5 or more ranks in jump, you gain a +2 on tumble checks. So there we have it. E through J of the skills list for 3.5 edition of Dungeons & Dragons. Thank you for joining me for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it. This definitely took me a lot more work than it should have because of the technical difficulties that I explained. If you have any questions regarding any of these skills or any skills that I've already covered, feel free to ask, and I will do my best to answer. Also, feel free to comment below if you would like to join the Discord channel, where we have the Dungeons & Dragons game started up and going. Alright, so that about covers that. So right about now, you'll be getting the usual subscribe button up here to become a Dragon Wisp. Latest video on the channel over here, video recommended for you by YouTube over here. Over here is going to be the playlist of Dungeons & Dragons tutorials. Thank you for joining me, and as always, have a peaceful day. Bye.